So, right, my talk is called Toppling the Monolith. I'm a bit sci-fi obsessed, so I kind of try and work that into everything. So expect lots of giant robots and some smaller ones. So let me start with the question: what if, right? What if less than the page wasn't restraint, but confidence? Okay, so people like to fill their websites full of things and widgets and other various singing and dancing things, but all that shows to people is that you don't really know what you want. So, hi, hello, bonjour, as I'm in Canada and I can keep it French. I'm Christopher Dowson. I will say Dowson, it's a small thing, but my last name is Dowson. But I once read in my phone book there were 199 Dawsons and 7 Dowsons, so I let it go most of the time. I ran my first ray gun. So since I've done freelance since 1998, so I had to keep it relevant to my location. So you get Alanis Morissette. If I did this talk in the UK, you get Divine Comedy's National Express. I've previously been an art worker. I've been a designer. I've been a digital designer. I've been a senior digital designer. I've been head of design. And for 6 months, I was pixel whisperer and no one questioned it. So, but now I've settled on freelance designer and developer, which seems a lot more apt. I'm not seeing, by the way, my next or previous on that, so I'm going to have to keep presenting the screen to you. My background is print and digital. This comes into play later on. My focus now is branding for e-commerce and SaaS, and see also anything else I'm paid to create. I will literally do most things design-wise. We'll point out, just to clarify, design-wise for money. So my recent, not so recent work includes icons for the Arts Council, lovely accessible icons for accessible things. 2 types of wheelchair icons, because, well, people in wheelchairs don't sit still all day. They get around and do things. A guide dog the entire team fell in love with when I was dealing with this at stakeholders' end, and various other bits and pieces to help facilitate the arts in an accessible way. I've also taken, by the way, this one's not mine, just to point out. This is the before, and this is the after. I take brands, I work with them, I make them look a lot nicer than sometimes they have been. I also make quirky things for small companies. So this was an aviation company that you could hire a Tiger Moth plane, or actually a aerobatics plane as well, and go around, do loops and things, and probably vomit afterwards. I've done stuff for the for various communities within the design and creative and technology industries. This is the logo for pug.js, which is, for those technically inclined, it's a sort of version of Haml. But it's a way of writing really shorthand HTML that it then outputs as fully featured HTML. It's just entirely based on indents. It can go horribly wrong quickly, but it's got a nice logo, and that's what we like. I do a small sideline in T-shirts for science fiction and popular culture. And I also did all the branding for Meet Magento UK for the last 2 years, including the finest T-shirts you'll ever see. But I couldn't be satisfied with that, so I made my own for the day. And I've actually made one for this one too, but I'm not wearing it. I'll wear it for the after party because I'm that kind of cool. I do a lot of stuff within the community for Magento. So I've rebranded the local London meetup, MX London, which is expandable into other territories if anyone's interested. And speaking of community, if the video will load. I'm rebranding Magento slightly. So if we move on to the next slide, because I can't control this bit. There we go. Nope, that way. Yep. Oh, it's still going. It's nice though. Let's watch it for another minute. There we go. I'm working with the Magento Association to overhaul the visual looks for all Magento open source type things. So we have new Magento Association logos and new Magento Association badges for your lovely websites. Magento itself has been overhauled. So we now have fancier gradients. I can still hear the video in the background, by the way. And Magento is getting a nice, clean, new coat of paint. Unifying it to use Inter, which is the font I'm actually using for this whole presentation. It makes everything a bit more accessible. It also means that everyone has access to the font through Google Fonts. So Magento open source. We're pushing the boundaries out a little now. The docs get their own logo. And you get a lovely new documentation website, which is quite pretty, really. So what's the problem? Why am I here? What's going on? The monolith is the problem. Magento, speaking for someone who's had to work with it directly as well as design for it, Magento is a big slab of software. It's really hard to do anything with. So everything's tied together. You've got templates, layout, logic, everything. Everything goes together. You can really break it really easily, and most people just take the easy risk, low risk option, install Luma, tweak it a bit, add images, done. So what can we do? Well, excitingly, we can topple the monolith. See, there's the sci-fi. We can knock the big slab over and start making it do what we want, because it's a big bully and we're standing up to it. So you have tech that follows design. Magento at the core, all the services connected, headless front end, you can read. So this is about the longest slide you'll see, by the way, so drink it in. And you end up with something along the lines of Mac, which is microservices, API, cloud-based, and headless. It's a way of doing everything where, if you notice, everything is now nicely connected together. There's your visual metaphor. I am a designer. Enjoy. But it takes from the disconnected slab of Magento into Magento being part of a greater system where everything works to better ends. Other methods are available. Talk to your devs. Watch their little eyes light up. Well, that's lovely, but this isn't a technical track. So why am I talking about technical things? What about design? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because it's just colors and fonts and things. Anyone could do that. That's my job in a nutshell. I do actually have that as a badge on my bag. It's my proudest achievement. But taste change, styles come and go. Design isn't visuals, or should I say not just the visuals. The visuals are the tip of the iceberg. If you actually want to know what goes into design, right, I have a lovely visual metaphor for you. That, because this, all this here, that's what everyone's like, oh, I designed something, oh, it's lovely, isn't it? But this is everything we have to do as designers. There's a lot of it. And all this is below the water. And this, I have christened the place that scope creep comes from. It's just hiding there, waiting to come out, increase costs for everyone. But this, journey maps, research and testing, personas, pricing logic, SEO, consistency, policies, accessibility. Accessibility is quite a big one, by the way. It should be further up. But it's a long list. Everything's on there. So that's all the extra stuff that goes into designing websites as a designer of websites. So, design is science. There is a line I can not say because I'm being recorded about the difference between art and design. So find me afterwards if you'd like to know what it is. But Jamie knows what it is, and he knows that I can't say this on camera when it's being recorded. But it's a very good metaphor, and I would encourage you to find me and ask me about it. So design is science. We research, we hypothesize, we experiment, and we measure. We go back and do it again, and again, and again until we get it right. But at the heart of it, design is storytelling. See, little robots. My daughter actually looked at it and went, that looks like one of the books we have at school. I went, yes, child, it does. That's good. She's 7. She's very clever. It's about taking you on a journey, helping you make the right choices, and it's based on knowledge, and this is really important. And the huge thing I say to all my clients is your actions and your decisions need to be based on the knowledge that something will happen as opposed to the fear that it might, because you have stakeholders that get worried that, we're concerned and no one else does it like this. And that's a terrible place to make a decision from, because you need to know what's going to happen. If you don't know, ask. You lack confidence, and confidence is essential to good design. And you generally end up having a bit of a fight, and this is my favorite slide. So, good design comes from knowledge, not fear, and so do good outcomes. So, 6 on-page principles, certainty. This is on the page for your site. I think I've managed this. A slide is missing, so I'll just push through and play on. So you have certainty. You want to tell me what's here and what happens next. You want clarity. You want one screen to do one job. You want calm, remove what moves unless it guides. And movement on a page is a terrible thing unless it actually does something for the page. You need control. And you need continuity. One of the greatest parts of design is continuity. If you continuity. If things look the same all the way through, it's a huge part of selling anything. And you need the edit, more on this later. So if you reduce hardness for load before adding features, choose pace and clarity over novelty, You don't end up with a website that has, let's have a look. So, do I have a laser on this? Oh, yes. So, big old banner. Here's some deals. Here's some more deals. Here's some things. Here's some things. Here's other things you can get that are related. Here's some other things, and here's some categories. How many screens do you reckon that is before you actually get to any of the content on this website? It's just all buried down at the bottom. And fear gives you a website that has everything but the kitchen sink on it because you're so terrified that no one's going to know all this exists that you bury what you actually want to sell people at the bottom. So busy heroes, rotating banners, multiple vague CTAs, hidden shipping info. I hate hidden shipping, it's horrible. Inconsistent tones where you're their best friend, but you're also trying to get them to buy things. It's like multi-level marketers who try to sell you Tropic through their Facebook page. It's just creepy and you don't like it. So kill the noise and embrace the quiet. Second favorite slide. So calm on the page is not the absence of content, it's the presence of control. So this is one of mine. Anticipate, lovely guy based in Houston, does amazing wedding invites. And his original website kept things behind tabs, but it was all a bit sort of meh. It didn't really do anything. So we had a bit of a rejig. And then you get a nice big hero image. You get all the important information in the buy box. For example, you're going to get a certain number, they're a certain size. Everything is here. Everything here can influence this. So you can specify how many you want, different color options, and everything else. But this, if you just wanted 30 wedding invites, you can go straight to the page and order them. But here you can do something to it. So we took a lot of principles and applied them to this page and made it work a bit better for what he wants. He's a quite straightforward business, so he doesn't need a lot on it. It's not a big complex like multinational, but it does the job for him. So faster comprehension, fewer detours, smoother add to basket experience. Or is it add to cart? I'll say add to basket, but that's just me being British. But if you remove all the fun stuff, Christopher, won't this be boring? I'll tell you what I tell my kids. No! And I made a t-shirt of that as well. Oh, she's in my suitcase. I might wear it to the after party. I don't know. I'm kind of crazy. I didn't get much sleep yesterday. It was a long trip. So quiet does not equal bland, okay? Confidence shows in voice and craft. You show your customers what you're doing, and it won't be a boring experience. Offers on better when the page has one job, so the focus needs to be there. And these are my older slides. Interesting. Because what I'm about to introduce is based on a lot of time in editorial. So this is the edit. This is a working methodology anyone can use. In fact, I've got a quick start version. I've got a few of them printed off in my folder, which I'm happy to give people, or I can give you the PDF. The big version is big and is being produced. But it's a way of taking a page, for example, the PDP, and you can audit it. You can write down everything that's on it. You can assign everything a score based on criteria. You can decide what to keep, move, remove. You can rewrite, commit. So one page has one job, one clear path through. Success is defined first. At the beginning of the process, you say, this is a page that needs to, and we define success for this page as this action is taken. And how quickly. You inventory the page, everything gets inventoried. You tag everything. You keep move or remove. So nothing's left in limbo. Stuff you need to make the action happen, primary stuff, gets kept. Anything that's secondary that can go after the on page can go in tabs or accordions if you really like them. Or it can be taken off page and finally included later on in after the basket actions. Keep only what drives the primary action of the page, and the primary action of the PDP is buy it. And move anything that will be useful later, as I've said, into accordions, tabs, or post after the basket screens. Remove the clutter, remove anything that doesn't work. So duplicates, you've got two of the same call to action. Why? You've got multiple calls to actions, which are great, but you really need to have some secondary ones. Everything can't be primary. And just stop doing carousels that move themselves, for the love of God. So the buy box, that little box with the add to basket on it, that becomes the calm center of the page. It is where you want people to be looking anyway. And assurances, like delivery, returns, warranty, and don't gatekeep delivery options by a postcode or a zip code or whatever you have in your area. And don't make things move unless it does something. Don't shout or use exclamation marks. So keep everything where it should be. And for the love of God, make sure buttons have a higher single hierarchy. There you go. Everything else is subordinate to the primary button. Everything. Now, there should be above the fold, but the fold doesn't exist. So when the page loads, have at least no more than 7 things on there. Otherwise, people are going to start getting their attention split. It doesn't go very well. And rewrite your microcopy. I've got this is all, by the way, in the guide as to what to do. This is just a quick go over. Fewer words, stronger verbs, real promises, and just don't make it all flappy and promise things that don't really ever pan out. Lock in your criteria, make a 1-page spec, and then measure the win. Because obviously you all have analytics, I would be hoping at this level, and you can keep track of all these things. So make the edit a habit, and it starts to become a thing. I am actually, have to confess, missing some slides because we're having to go with a slightly different version of my talk. So there are some bits I need to fill in, which I'll happily fill in person afterwards. So yes, so try these things on Monday, because I'm going to give you tomorrow off. So for certainty, either plain English or langage éclair. Yeah, see, I can do French. What happens next? Line and checkout steps. Rewrite one headline, just one headline, and remove one competing element. Stop your carousel from moving by itself. And, just the little thing, just inline editing baskets, that's no biggie. It won't take very long. Half an hour. And if anyone's going to delete something from the basket entirely, confirm performance, just do some small steps and see how that improves the experience for everyone. And make sure that everything that talks to your customer uses the same tone of voice. And you can use the playbook, which I will make freely available afterwards. So in summary, we got there. Design it before you build it. Design really does drive things forward. If you, as I've experienced at many places, if they build it first and then you got to try and make it look nice, it doesn't work. It just always feels half-baked and it never kind of does what it's supposed to do. Clearer journeys do convert better. And quieter stores do sell more. But if you can't decouple, which is moving to the Mac structure of abstracting your design layer, just start your design system, figure out how everything's going to talk to each other, get your tone of voice right, and just take that first step towards a brighter design-based future. And build for people because people notice. And when people notice, they spend money with you, so revenue follows. Top on the monolith or just chip away at it. But give it a go. Thanks for having me. Any questions? It's okay if there's no questions. Other questions, anyone? Sorry, did I see a hand up? No? Fair enough.